understand how the program's running and everything. So basically, this is the link. If you have the website open, you'll see it in the step. I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. It'll have the tab open. So this is sort of where you learn just to practice it, and that's what I'm gonna be using today, just for practicing stuff. But in terms of Android Studio, I'll be writing a little bit there, but also following their instructions. So Kotlin, like any other programming, is used pretty commonly to make apps. So to give you some background, if you have worked with like stuff like Java, you'd probably start the program with like public static, void main, or in other languages you would have like int main, and that's mainly where you would run your code, and that's whatever you want to accomplish is run from there. Sometimes you'll have like references, but that's mainly where you want everything to run. And so how Kotlin works is they have function main. Fun is what the shorter term, abbreviated for function. And then sometimes within the parentheses, if you're very new to programming, so this is how the main function, like I said, is where you want your code to run. And within the parentheses, sometimes you can pass in arguments. So if I was having another function, or if I had a class, then anything I develop in that would be, those arguments can be passed into the main like parentheses. So then I can call them in the main function. And then within the brackets is where you're going to be writing like your code and like whatever you want to run. So print line is just a statement like that you're telling to the computer to output something. So print line, you've probably seen again in Java, for example, it would be system.out.println or system.out.print. And here it's just print line or just print. So then you would, in quotes, type in whatever message you would like and then print that out. So for anyone that's very new here to programming, like you have never done any programming in your life, if you would like to try that, they've already, when it came with it, they already did it. So if I just ran this, it would print hello world because that's the only thing that's there. So like the user would see hello world. So now we're going to like sort of switch it up a bit because obviously hello world is something that came with it. And they want us to change it to happy birthday. So if I changed it to happy birthday, you just go ahead, type it, and then that's it. I know for any of you that have done any programming languages before, this is going to seem very redundant because you're probably like, well, I already kind of know this. Is there anything else? A lot of Kotlin is very similar, at least in today's workshop, to other languages. But in like what I've seen in this, there's probably like one statement that's kind of different, and like some of their syntax is a bit different too. So like I already said, fun is the Kotlin the word in their Kotlin programming language which stands for function, and it performs a specific task. So then main is the name of their function, and that's where you would run your main program. And like I said, in the parentheses, sometimes you can pass information, and that is for arguments, or args for short. And then within your brackets is where you type in your code, which accomplishes any kind of task you would like. So like they've said, print line tells the system to print a line of text. So that's pretty much like a very short Kotlin program. So now they've given you an option to print more than one message. So here they said happy birthday, and then that's the first line. Second line would be John C. Third line would be you are 25. So when you have, they'll get into this, but I want to sort of give you like a heads up beforehand. Print line will print like on a separate line every time, but if you have print, it would print on the same line unless you use like the \n, which I'll show you. So if you wanted to do all on separate lines, you could do it like how they have it. And then if I follow what they said, so if I said Madhu and then print line you are 21, and then it would print that on 3 separate lines. Oh, one thing I want to add is also, again, if you've used other programming languages, you probably noticed that like after you type anything, you would put a semicolon at the end. Kotlin, not necessarily. So they talk about how to deal with errors. Obviously, the error here is because they didn't put the text in quotes. So when you're trying to print a text, you have to put it in quotations. And that's why they have the unresolved reference. So the print line is not able to print the text. So if you put in the quotes, you'll be able to print the program, whatever you were trying to print. So that's like the solution for that part, for writing your first program. I'm going to go ahead and now we're going to go to the second collab, creating a birthday message. So in this, we're going to be learning some more complex text from the program, doing basic math, creating a function to print the same string several times, and creating a loop that will print the text multiple times as well. So they want us to create a birthday message, and we're going to do it in the same like the Kotlin playground. So now like they would like us to, inside like the main function, to replace hello world with the text happy birthday Rover. Below that we would put like you're already 5 and 5 is the best age to celebrate. So that's like I'm just gonna keep what I have right now because it's not that much different. And so now they want us to add a birthday cake. So I mean they didn't actually add like an emoji or anything. It was just sort of with some of the elements you find on your keyboard. And so the purpose of this is just to show you that you can print multiple lines with print line. And if you add quotations in your, let's say you did print line and then you just added quotations, but you didn't add any text, that would indicate that you were trying to print an empty line. This is just some basic stuff in terms of like you're just learning how to program, like what does all this mean? Another thing is if you were trying to comment, most of you are probably students, and if you've learned programming before, this is something that you'll see very commonly. 2 like slashes, that means those are comments, so it's just sort of a way to explain to the user like what your code is trying to do at a particular part. And if you're following me and you're on like the same website, you can go ahead and just copy this and then paste it there to show you the cake that they're trying to print. And they also indicate here that, they're trying to print a cake here. And then that's what I was talking about, that it prints an empty line. So there's just nothing there. It would be like a space. So you can tell that there's a space there because all they printed was an empty line. So now they introduce variables. So again, if you've worked with any other language, for example, there are data types. So you have integer for integer values, double for can also include decimal values. Booleans are true and false. Strings are for like text. So in this, they kind of generally have they have val, which is for like the value, the variable, and then you'll give the variable a name. And in this case, they gave it age, and then they initialized it to 5. So the age is just 5. So val is keyword that is especially used by Kotlin, and they call it a keyword. And then after that would be the name of your variable. Your name of your variable typically is up to you. Usually it should correlate with what you're trying to display. So obviously they're trying to display an age here, which is why it's 5. So I'm going to keep going, and this is an important thing. And if you haven't worked with Kotlin before, but you're kind of like, oh, all of this is pretty like similar, this is a thing that's slightly different that I mentioned earlier, is that when you're trying to print in like a print statement, if you're trying to print like the variable number, then you have to do the $sign with the brackets and then put the variable name inside of it in order to print it. So that's a way to tell the system that it's not a text but a number, and sorry, but a variable. So in this scenario, they just did print line, and then you are already, and then the $sign, and then the name of the variable within the brackets, and then everything else is just the same. So you're able to see like the H5 being like referenced here. You can also, like in this scenario, they changed the value of the variable to something else. So instead of showing it in 5 years, they're trying to show it in days, so that it would indicate that he's 1,825 days old. So yes, so now not only could you can put numbers into variables, but also text. So you probably thought like, oh yeah, that probably only applies to like integer values or like double values or whatever, but it applies for text also because you're referencing a variable name. So if I had a variable name like they have like val name Rover, and I wanted to reference the name inside of the print line text, then I would do the same exact syntax where I do the $sign brackets, put the variable name or value name inside, and then everything else is the same. You have to remember not to forget quotes, like I said before, or else that's going to cause like some kind of unresolved reference. So here, they sort of show you what your completed code would potentially look like. And I think this part's like pretty straightforward. You're probably following me because I feel like a lot of you here kind of already have some background knowledge. And so the main difference here is the fact that if you wanted to reference a variable, you would have to do the $sign and then with the brackets and put the variable name. All right, so they want us, so for example, I'm just gonna like copy paste this code and put it into the editor. And if I try to run it, obviously you're gonna get 2 bars on top and below like the wording. So it's just kind of like a border. That's kind of what they're trying to indicate here. So they want you to run the program to see a banner printed. So in this part, they're kind of showing you how you can create a function to print that border. So like before, main was the name of the function because main is sort of where you would run a lot of your stuff. In this time, since they want to print a border, then now it would be typically easier instead of having like 2 print line statements. And the thing is it's repeating. And so it would be easier to sort of just like have it once, right? So we're going to create a function called fun print border. And it's going to work pretty similar to how main does. Also, one thing to highlight is if, main is just one word. If you were having 2 words, it's important to use something for like when you're naming your functions, something called camel case, where you will print, you would type like the first word in lowercase and then the beginning of the second word would be uppercase. So if you had like something that was longer, for example, they have print birthday message. So the B is capitalized and then the M is capitalized. So that's what they call camel case. That's for for naming your function name. And so they created a function called print border and added a print line statement. And you're probably like, well, why do they, if you don't have any experience with it, you're probably like, well, why do they only have one print line statement? It's because they'll call the function in the main. They'll call it print border in the main where they need it. And then, so you don't have to like do a print line statement and type like the equal to sign every single time. So if you notice here, so this is so I'm going to like cover it up first. So main is like the main function. And then print border is like where you're printing your border. So they just did one print line statement and then they called the print border function in the main. So then wherever you would want that border to show, and then it would show it like that. So if I'm just copy pasting it for you because they like already kind of showed it. But obviously you can alter it too. Like instead of equal to signs, if you want to do like backslashes, for instance, same thing. So if you ran it, it would look like that. But obviously, I probably should have put more so it fits the entire thing. But I'm just showing you an example. And so now looking at the we're looking at the borderline, and they're suggesting like, oh, it's printing the same exact thing, and why do we have to type it out every single time? So there's a function, a statement called repeat in Kotlin, and this will allow you can type the number of times you want something to repeat. And so they, in their print border function, let's say you want like the equal to sign to repeat 23 times. Then you do a print statement to print the equal to sign every single time. You probably noticed they used print instead of print line. Like I said before, print line will print whatever you put into it on a new line every single time, but print will print it on the same exact line. And because, if you do print line, then you will have it like vertically rather than horizontally. So that's what they did there. So that's the purpose of the repeat function, to repetitively print the same thing that you would want. So they kind of refer to the print statement as a loop because it's doing it multiple times. And like obviously there's some other loops that you've probably like worked with in other languages, like the while loop. I know Java has for each and for loop, stuff like that. But this is obviously a lot more basic. And so within the print border, after the closing curly brace at the repeat statement is after you're done printing the border line, you need to add a print line statement to print a new line, or else it's gonna like stick together. So like I'll kind of show you what they mean by that. So let's say like I'm just gonna like copy this and paste it here, and if I try to run, it's gonna look like how it looked in the beginning. If I remove this print line, you can see that the text did not go to a new line, like it didn't go in between it. So which is why they ask you to add a print line statement in between. So that's what it ended up looking like. And obviously like how I tried it with like the slashes, you can change the borders if you would like. And then so another thing that they suggest is that let's say you wanted to change the border, then in your main function, you can create a variable. They call it a border in this sense. And then they set it equal to like whatever you wanted your border to be. Again, if you don't have experience, you probably noticed before, like what they had like variable name, val, and then age, it was just 5. But then for like text, like, like the percentage or names and stuff, you would have to do it in quotations. So they created a variable with percentage, and then they passed the name of the variable into the function that they called in the main, so that it would print it above and below that. But this was causing an error. So even if you want it, like if you would like want to see that, it would probably give us an error as well, because we have an unresolved reference, which is print border, because there's no print border function. It's asking you where you're getting it from. But also you're passing many arguments for it. And we're calling the print border function, but passing the border as an input. So the print border function is not accepting any input. And we have to fix this in the print border, where technically, like I said, we're passing in a string, right? It's text, like the percentage would be text. So you have to, that variable that we created in main, you pass that argument here, and it would be a string. And then here they're repeating it, printing, and then this is the syntax for it. So if that's the case, you would have oh, sorry, I didn't mean to not drop the code lab link. 1 second. Right here, I'll just give you guys like the main link, and then you can follow along for like the entire thing. Sorry about that. So if you got the link I just sent, it is the I'm in the first section right now, and we'll get through like all of them. So sorry, give me one sec so I can go back to where I was. Okay. So yeah, so the name of the argument is border, followed by a colon and the word string, which is the type of argument that it is. The type of argument meaning the data type. So if you were passing an integer instead, you would type int, but not lowercase. I think the I is uppercase, and then it's nt. So if you do this and then run your code, then you'll be able to see that that's how it was. It would print the same way as it did before, but that's because you're passing in the print statement of the equal sign and not the percentage. So which is why you're not getting like, your percentages in between as the border. So that is something that you would need to figure out why that's happening. And so they had a message that indicated that the parameter border, which was the border was the variable that you declared in main that was not being used. And so we're passing in a new string for the border to the function, but we're not using it for printing. And so we need to change like in the print statement in print border, you need to send in that variable name instead of like the equal to sign. So if you pass in the border, then we already initialized it in the main function. So then you'll be able to see the percentages. So this is like the finished code that they showed. And, they initialized it here. And then it goes to print border, right? So when you see print border, it will go to this function and be like, okay, so what is it doing? So, they're giving us border and they're passing in a string, which is true. We're going to repeat it 23 times and then print that border. And then we're going to print the line. So then it goes back and then it prints the border. Then it prints the print line text they have in main and then does the same exact thing again. And then obviously they're giving you options like, oh, if you wanted to change the border, this is how you can just change like in main what it would be. So now they're suggesting like if you wanted to modify the function to have 2 arguments. So what if you had a pattern that was longer than 1 character? Obviously you wouldn't repeat the pattern that many times because it would be too long, and then you'd repeat it a smaller number of times. And so you would, whatever you would like, you would put that instead in your border. And then, but obviously, the number of times repeated was too long, right? So they created a variable called times to repeat and for the number of repetitions. And so in main, they created this and they gave it 4 times to repeat. So now in your print border, originally you were only passing in your border variable, but now you have to pass in your times to repeat variable. So, it understands that too. So but this would give you an error because you're calling in more arguments than the definition itself. So that's because you also need to specify the data type 4 times to repeat, which would be integer. And you probably noticed that it's a capital. So that's also an important syntax to note. So they sort of like broke down what's going on. Comma is the one that's separating the 2 arguments, border and times to repeat. Each one has its own data type. String is like for text, integer is the number, the whole number. And then we're going in the repeat times to repeat. You probably remember we originally had 23, but now you want it to pass however number of times you have it in main. And they had 4, I believe. So that's how much it passes. And then the print border is like whatever border you had selected. And then it runs your code. So this, depicts your output. So overall, it would end up looking like this. So you have your value border, times to repeat, and then you passed in the 2 the 2 variables you had, because whatever it did here with the arguments, you want to pass both of them now, and then it will print it. So they did another picture here with printing a cake. Again, if you actually feel like doing that. So I'm just going to go through this part really fast because I don't think it's, you know, like that necessary. So they have so they gave two variables, age and layers. Age for like how old the person is, layers is how many cake the layers is. And then so you want to print the top of the cake. So they passed in the age, which was an integer. They repeated the age and then added to the two extra equal signs they added. So apparently, so the candle won't fall off the cake. And then they printed it. And so I don't want to spend too much time on this because I also want to get you into Android Studio. So this is like just it's sort of like they're repeating what I just showed you in the previous one. So that's that. And so now I'm going to go ahead and go to Android Basics, creating your first Android app. So if you have come to our workshops in the past, we actually did show you how to download and install Android Studio. I already have Android Studio on this computer, so I'm not gonna like install it again, but I will definitely show you sort of how it would look like. And so one thing I want to say beforehand is that if you are trying to download Android Studio, make sure you have a lot of storage. I'm actually using an alternate laptop, not my personal one, because mine doesn't have that much storage. I think it takes up almost the same between a Mac and a Windows. I don't think a Linux should be that different either. So Android Studio is an IDE that a lot of people use to create apps. One of the languages they use is Dart. Kotlin is also one of them. And yeah, so obviously, verifying your system requirements, depending on that is what you would what kind of version you would install. So for example, they gave us a link to download Android Studio, sorry. So obviously, if you have a Windows, you have to make sure that you have all the space. This is how much GB they recommend, what version you're at, and then Mac, same thing, Linux, Chrome, all the same. And then, so for Mac specifically, like I'm using a Mac right now, you would go to the Apple menu at the top, about this Mac, and then you can click on the version, see the storage you have, etc. And you guys kind of already know this stuff. Again, like I suggested, you need a good amount of GB to like download this, which is definitely a problem that I had. So in terms of downloading itself, so this is the link they provide, and you would just select and download Android Studio. Mine specifically for Mac, it probably already recognized I was using a Mac, but obviously if you have a Windows or something, you should get to that. So after you click download Android Studio, obviously it would start downloading. You get through the terms and conditions, read the license agreement, agree to everything, and then download. I'm not really going to pause today. Like if you are trying to download right now, I'm not really going to pause today, like to give you some time to download because there's some other stuff I want to get through. But we are recording this so you can review it later. But downloading should not take you too long. Sorry, it may take a while, but like I wouldn't say more than like max 10 minutes or something. So they're just showing you like a visualization of what it may look like if you were downloading. And after you download it, obviously, you open it up and you double click onto the Android Studio icon. For Mac, they suggest that you put it into your applications folder so it's easier for access. And then after you get through the setup wizard and everything, your installation is complete and you'll be able to open it. So theirs looks like this. Mine looks pretty much the same. It's a little bit different, but it's pretty much the same. So obviously, depending on what you want to do, you can get started. And then if you have any other setup, you guys probably know how to get through it to go through the installation and finish it up. So basically, like what we're going to be working with today is starting a new Android Studio project. So that's that. And then running our app on a mobile device. So you're probably like, what does this mean? So sometimes you can I don't think this part is specifically it. Yeah, I don't think this part specifically. I'm going to skip this part because it's not that necessary. I'm going to show you, like, you know, if you were using an emulator, that's something that's different. I think that's all in this code lab. Sorry, never mind. There's one more code lab. Or was that the one I just did? Yeah, that was one I just did. Never mind. So I'm going to go ahead and go to building a basic layout. One second. I feel like I'm missing something. Or did I? I think I skipped this step. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I skipped this step. Sorry about that. We're still in the second section. So go back to that and select the code lab with create and run your first Android app. So if you have Android Studio open, let's say you already have it downloaded, this is going to show you, like, you know, setting it up. So, you know, you're welcome to Android Studio window. This shows up, and then you would select start a new Android Studio project. After you select that, it will show you a list of project template options, and you're going to select the one that says empty activity because there won't be anything in it. And it's the simplest template for you to use because there's only like a single screen with a message, so there's not much to it. On your own time, you can definitely sort of play around with the other ones. After you select empty activity, right? Yes. You will get this screen that says configure your project. And you give your project a name. In their case, they said happy birthday. And then the package name is sort of like where it's if you were ever like submitting your app to like the App Store, that's sort of like a specific identification for them to find it. Location is where your app is saved. So in theirs, it's like users. Mine will probably be the same. It would be users, like your name, like on your Mac, Android Studio projects, happy birthday. It's like the file name. We're using the language Kotlin. They suggest that the minimum SDK that we use is API 16, Android 4.1. Here it says Jelly Bean, but they suggest that we use the one that says KitKat instead. So I would suggest you select the one that says KitKat. Make sure you don't select, like, keep this legacy Android.support libraries unchecked. We don't want to select that. And then obviously, you know, this part's up to you. I mean, they said select KitKat, but I guess you can, like, it depends on like the API level or whatever. But just play it safe. I'm going to select the KitKat one. And then you would click finish. So then their screen opens up like this. Your screen may not necessarily look exactly like this. Mine didn't when I was training. And I was kind of like, oh, is something wrong? That's not the case. And I actually, I'll show you what I kind of only had. And I think that's all they have. So my Android Studio looks like this, right? So if I did like the whole create new project, empty activity, and I clicked next, and then they gave you the default my application, but obviously I would change it to like happy birthday. And then it does this all of the same exact thing. It may have like Jelly Bean already selected, so you should change it to KitKat. It gives you a bunch of options though. I'm leaving this unselected, and I'm gonna then I would click finish. I'm not gonna create a new one because I already had a project, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go to that directly. But you would click finish, so I mean it's like the same thing. So like if this is the one I was working on. If I open it up. Also, FYI, I'm going to be repeating this very much. This computer that I'm doing this on, it's like a lot slower. Storage is a lot lower. That's why like a lot of stuff, like especially Android Studio on this computer, is going to run really slowly. So bear with me on that. Yours will probably most likely run faster. And so you probably noticed like, oh, you know, like my screen looks different. Didn't they have 3? So they did have 3. They had a project window, which shows you all like your files and folders to your project. this is where you edit like your code and everything. And then this is sort of like tips on like getting around Android Studio. So you probably noticed that they have like the example instrumented test.kt file, the unit test.kt file, whereas I actually have the activity main and main activity files. So that's still okay. If that's what you're seeing, that's still okay because it's going to run the same exact way. And we're going to continue. So this part is pretty important. You want to use a Android virtual device. Basically, it's an emulator. An emulator is like your phone, but it's on the computer. So typically people that are developing apps would have it on their computer. So it's easier for you to see, like if you make a change to your app, you can see it right away. You can also like get it on your phone. I haven't tried that yet. But like I would sort of suggest trying to do this first. But this will also probably take up some space on your computer. Another reason why my computer is slow. So if you were trying to access the Avd Manager, oh, why KitKat? To be honest, I'm not sure. I think it's because it has the highest API level, which is why they suggest it. If I like went back there, if you were on like this page and then you like clicked on the little I button, so it has like the different versions of it shown here. So it'll probably explain to you like distribution wise and then API level wise. So KitKat, I don't know the specific reason either. It's just something that they suggest. If you're trying this for the first time, I would just suggest that you use KitKat. But I don't know if like using another platform version is going to like change it that much. So all right, so yeah, your Avd Manager is your Android Virtual Device Manager, and that's like your emulator. And so I already have one set up. It's called like the Pixel 3a. So I'm going to sort of show you like the steps to like get there if you don't have one already. And so to do that, you can either go to Tools and go to Avd Manager from the top. There should be the same for Windows or Mac. Or you can also, there's the option here. If you can see in the top right corner, it's like a phone device with like, I don't really, it's like some green creature. And if you hover over, it'll say Avd Manager. And if you select that, then it's a safe way. And then, you'll get like a screen that says your virtual devices. And if you don't have anything, obviously it will say create your virtual device. But I already have one, or you may already have one. So like, for this though specifically, I don't, we're going to sort of follow what they have. I don't think the specificity should matter because like they suggest using a Pixel 3 XL, but I'm using like the Pixel 3a one. So like it all kind of works the same. I'm also using the Pixel 3a because like I had some other ones and they were taking up room and like that one wasn't taking up too much. So I just sort of kept that. So you create a new virtual device and then you should see this the screen right here where you select hardware. And then you're going to click the phone tab and select the Pixel 3 XL. All of you should be able to see it. And then it also on the right shows you like the size and all that stuff. So we're gonna, after you do that, after you select, you're gonna click next. After you do that, you'll come to a page that says system image. And I think this has to, we're gonna choose the version that you want your Android system to run on with your virtual device. So this is what lets you test your app on different versions in the Android system. So they suggest, it's the recommended ones. They want you, they recommend the Q version to run like run on the virtual device. They're suggesting that because that's the latest version, and but you could also choose a more like a different version if you would like. For example, like if yours like could select Q, then you're good. But some of you may have to download it. So, I mean, downloading, again, same thing. If you click download, it'll just ask you to go through some steps, and then it should finish, and then you should be able to select it. So after you select your version, then we're going to keep going. So they're just saying like, oh, you know, if you have to download it, you just go through it to install it and then click finish. So now it brings you to the final screen, which says the AVD, and you're trying to like configure it. The name and everything should probably still stay the same. You keep the portrait, the graphics are automatic. I don't think you change much here, and you will select finish. Then after you select finish, you'll be able to see that you've added your virtual device to like that main screen where it originally just said that you didn't have any. And then you should be able to run it. So obviously, so they're saying that with the project that you just opened, if you run it, it will say happy birthday at the top, and then it will say hello world. So I'm gonna show you that, you know, it does already have like mine open here. Bear with me because mine does take a while. So while it runs that, because like I said, it takes a hot minute. So yeah, while it does that, I'm just gonna like continue like in terms of steps, like what else there is. So I mean, typically it's supposed to display this. Now they're just sort of showing you where you could find your project folder. And so happy birthday is your project folder, and then in Android Studio, if you look on the left, you'll be able to see like all of like the tabs, and then also in your app, your main activity is one of the places you'll be coding a lot. So that's one thing. Oh, it's just giving me a notification. I don't know if my emulator popped up. Let me try that again. You probably see that. Yeah, there it is. There you go. So it looks like that. Again, please bear with me. This thing takes a long time, even though it's printing something very like simple. Again, yours probably will go a lot faster than mine will. So I'm gonna let it like do that. And that's what they have in terms of just setting it up. I think my screen froze. 1 second. Yeah, it's pretty slow. So yeah, you can press the run icon and it should run like, sorry, it should run the happy birthday app. So for instance, if I went back to Android Studio, you can see that it's still waiting for the devices to come online. So it's still booting my emulator, which is why it's taking a very long time. And yeah, so that's why it's sort of my computer's slowing down. So that was the end of that section, pretty much. So in terms of building a basic layout, sorry guys, my computer's slowing down. Let me see if it's still loading. Oh, well, technically this is what, because I was training before, that was, if you caught an eye of that, that was what your, after the whole happy birthday activity, that's what your emulator will eventually look after you like add images and all that. So it's still loading. I just wanted to run it so you guys could see it, but it's taking a very long time. I may have to show you this, and then like later, I may have to just show you like the pictures that they have, so we can sort of, I don't want it to seem like I'm like dragging on too long. So while hopefully it calms itself down, I'm gonna go ahead and oh, not a new window. That's fine, I guess. Sorry. Yeah, I may have to See, you can probably see that it just started. So while it calms down, I'm gonna go ahead and yeah. So now we're in the build a basic section. So they want us to create a birthday card app. So I'm gonna. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna create the birthday card app, and that code lab. So I'm gonna open this in a new tab. Is it possible to put the app on the phone when we're done making it? I know there's a way for you to like, if you were instead of using an emulator, like as you can probably tell, the emulator is kind of like taking up a lot of energy on your computer. There is a way to sort of set it up on your phone. I'm not specifically covering that today because I wanted to get you into Android Studio, but I know because like you know how like I have it on the emulator and then you code, you can kind of see it on there. You can also have it like on your own phone, and then you can see it through that way. So, oh, go away. Okay. So here we're gonna just sort of create an app in Android Studio, like your happy birthday, and like they said, your screenshot should look like your app emulator should look like that. I think yeah, it's still running. So but I'm giving you guys the idea of like what it would look like. It would look like this if you were running it on your own. And so now they're going to get into the user interface of Android Studio. So in the UI of the app, you have lots of things like, you know, like they've said, text, images, buttons, all of those things. Buttons meaning like, let's say you have like a dice and you press the button and then the dice would like change to some number that you want. That's what they mean by button. And so you can see all of these elements is what they call a view. So like whatever you see in your app is your view. And views can be interactive, like the clickable button, etc. Or you can also like input stuff. In view, then you would have like a subsection, which is like text view. That's an example of printing text. And so in lots of stuff within views has a relationship with each other, like how in terms of organizing it, you can put it all into a container. So like this is their container, and then they put views into it. Like this could be an image, and then this could be a text. So view group, that is a container where all of your objects can sit in, and then it's responsible for arranging the views inside of it. So the arrangement and layout, you know, that depends on the device you chose, like how I chose a Pixel 3a or whatever, that the app is running on, and then that's what it would adapt to. So a type of view group, like the container, is a constraint layout. So that helps you arrange the views inside in a flexible way. I'll kind of show you what that is. Basically, it's just sort of like making sure everything is like margined and all of that. So this just gives you a little bit of background, like what everything that's in the layout editor. And they have a picture here. I can actually also probably show that to you. Okay. So if you go in your app, if you go to res, click layout, and then click the activity main.xml. Let me give it a sec to load. There you go. So here's your palette with like, you know, text, buttons, your layouts, containers, all of that. And then one. I don't know why it won't show the attributes. Oh, where'd it go? It's okay, we'll come back. And then this is your constraint layout, which is like if I selected this, actually it'll probably show up. If I selected it, then you'll be able to adjust it. And then, sorry, I'm gonna like go ahead and quit my emulator because I think it's what's causing the whole computer to slow down. Sorry guys, it's my fault. So this is your layout editor, and then you have your palette. You have your project folder, your palette, your constraint, your component tree, and then this is like the screen of your app, and then your attributes. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get rid of this emulator because it's clearly causing problems. All right. I slowed down my computer significantly. There we go. Wow. Okay. So Android Studio. Oh, there. Oh, now you can see the attributes. So unfortunately, yeah, since it's like pulling a lot of energy, I'm gonna like show you what the emulator eventually would look like. But if you do have it on your own, it should work no problem. So yeah, we're in the activity main.xml, and that's where we see the entire layout editor. And so, for example, if I clicked here on text view, you can see all of the text views, like declared attributes. The text is right here, you know, like that's what it says there. If I zoomed in, you can probably see it better. It says hello world, and then oh, I unselected it, my bad. So I could change that text. Constraint widget, this is where you can sort of adjust like the margins and everything. So so yeah, in the component tree, they selected text view and they found like the declared attribute section where it says hello world. And then now they want us to change it to happy birthday. So if I were to do that, if I went there and I selected this and I changed it to happy birthday, it changed it to happy birthday. So, you know, that's like a way to sort of like work with it. And then if you ran the app, it would say, originally it said happy birthday up here and then hello world here. I got rid of the emulator because like I feel like it was slowing everything down. So, but if you're running it, this is how it looked like, no different. And I showed you how you do run it. So, then yeah, if you had the emulator open, you just press the run and then it will show you the changes instantly. Okay. So adding text views to your layout. So yeah, like I mean, I showed you that, you know, you can modify the text. And there's also the constraint layout, which is like the margins. And now we're going to add text. So, you know, like text already kind of came with it, but I can add text if I wanted to. So text view right here, if I like drag that over, you can see that it came up there. And then you can add some text to it. So if I said like to Sam, and then it should update. So now you can see that I've added text. And, oh, well, they said happy birthday, Sam. It's up to you. And so yeah, they just sort of showed you that you can drag it from the palette, and then there's obviously other options that you can use as well. And you can probably see that there is a little exclamation next to text view. So that is true, and it says that there's missing constraints in the constraint layout. Yeah, because it's not like positioned, which is what they're talking about. And also because it's hard-coded text. And so we want to position the text view in the upper left corner. which is why they're going to add some constraints to it, and that will help you fixate it. And that's where this square comes in. So this is in the layout section because, and it already tells you that it's not like constrained at all. So for example, we're going to change the top margin to 16. And I'm going to make sure that is for text view. So let's say it's this one. Sorry, this one. Right? Are they? Oh, sorry. They are using the happy birthday, Sam. Okay, so 16. So you can see that it like pushed it up more. And then you can also change the side one so it's towards the side. So to Sam, if I do the left one, 16. And then this is basically for margining and positioning, if you didn't understand that. So now they wanted to add another text from the palette and put it at the bottom right, and then put the bottom, like the right side and the bottom, to position it down here so it looks like it's pretty diagonal. So if I did the same thing, if I added another text view, and I can change the text to from John, and then you can change the layout, the constraint widget to 16, and then change this as well to 16. I think it's in DP, which is like the pixels that computers use. So after you add style to the text, it doesn't look like the final app yet. So because you kind of want to change like the text size, color, all of that stuff. So that's something that you can see in the common attributes. So for example, if I clicked on happy birthday, 1 second. Where did I see it? The common attributes. Okay. There you go, common attributes. So yeah, right now I just clicked on to Sam, and then you can obviously change the size to like anything you would like. Oh, 1 second. And then, okay, there. You can change the size to anything you like 36, and then it becomes a lot larger. I can change this also to 36, and then this as well to 36. So now it's a lot more apparent. And, you know, like text color and everything, alignment, style, you guys get it. And that's just for the text appearance. So like they've just changed the coloring and everything. You can also like add text color. They're suggesting that you can also like here, like you can type in the color. Like if you typed black, it comes up for you to give you some options. And so now if you were to have your emulator or your app open, then it would look like this. So that's like the solution that they had. So that was like the original part in creating it. And then in terms of adding images, so this is what we have, and we're going to download the image. If you click and access the image, you can download it. And then you should download the image, right click, save it to your computer as androidparty.png, and you can find it. Then in Android Studio, we're going to go to View, Tools, Resource Manager. And then, so let me go ahead and take you there. View. Sorry, it clicked on, hold on. View, Tools, Resource Manager. And now you have your Resource Manager open. And so then you would select the plus sign and click import drawable, so then you can see what you've downloaded. So if I select import drawables, in my downloads, I already had it downloaded. So I'm just going to open it. All right, and then click next, and then import. So now it's here. So that's just what they show you, and then you can check to see if it's there in your drawable. So if I had gone to if you were in like your project folder, you can go back and view tools and then project drawable, and then you can see that the PNG file is in there. So basically the purpose of this section is we're going to add that picture to the background like that, so you can like see it. So in Android Studio, if you clicked on image view and then you drag it, it tells you to pick a resource. So if I picked the Android party, selected OK, you can see that it obviously didn't position itself properly. I'm just gonna like move it over. And then now it's in the center, but it's also hiding some text, which is what they'll show us to adjust it. And then as they did the same. So you can also add a constraint to from the bottom of the image view to the bottom of the constraint layout. So if I wanted to, I can select the image view. And if I wanted to add any layouts or anything, and then it already has the given layouts, so I can probably take their suggestions to make it a lot larger. That's basically what they had originally. And then I'm going to do center crop so that it fills the entire screen. So let me make sure they did set scale type. Okay. So in scale type, it is center crop. And now it has fit the entire screen, as you can see right there. So now you want your images, though, they're like behind there. So we want them to, come forward. And so in the component tree, we're going to click on image view and drag it above the text view. So to go just below the constraint layout. So you want the image view to come on top. And if I pull it up, you can see that the texts have now returned. And you can go ahead and remove the happy birthday because that's technically not, or you can move it if you would like. If I wanted to move it back up there, that's also possible. And then that's what they're showing you, like playing around with the layout in Android Studio. So then this is what it will eventually look like. So that is the end of that section. So I'm going to take you back to the last section. All right, so this section is probably like the most like you'll be implementing some of Kotlin and everything. So they want your final app to look like this. So if you clicked roll, then it would roll the dice and like give you a number. And so they're showing us here, like this is what the Kotlin programming, like when I was the playground, like what we were playing with here, is what they're showing here. So you have your main function, and there are obviously data types like int for integer, string for text, and then there's something in Kotlin called integer range. So it's like a range of numbers. So if you created a variable, in this case, they did dice range, and then they set it equal from 1 to 6. The computer already knows that you're talking about int range. You don't have to specify the data type. That's what they say here. For example, the system would interpret valid dice range 1 to 6 as valid dice range int range from 1 to 6. So inside main, you have a variable called dice range from 1 to 6, and then a random number. So this is where they use the random function. If you've had some programming experience, you probably have heard of this. And random will help you generate a random number. So dice range is from that range is why you want to get a random number, right? So you would do dice range dot random. And then you do a print line statement, and remember this syntax because you're passing in that variable and that's what you want to print, the $sign and the brackets, and then you pass in random number. And then if you run the code, you'll be able to get random numbers pretty often. So if you wanted me to try that for you, run, it will show you 1. If I do it again, it'll show you a different number. So, yeah. So now they're also showing you about creating a dice class. So classes also it's if you've like worked with it, it's kind of like a function as well. So in the class definition, you can have like some properties for the class using variables. You can like specify variables in there. So in this scenario, they did class dice, variable size, and you have 6. And then you can create instances of the dice class, and you have objects. So your dice class is like a blueprint. It's like what it will do, but then your object is like the actual object. So dice is like an object instance, but the dice class is like the overall big picture. So the first instance is called their first object is called my first dice in the dice class. So like they said, now that you made my first dice object, a thing made from the blueprint, you can access the properties. So your properties would be like the sides, and then that's what you use that's what you get like the dot notation from. So my first dice dot sides, and then if you print that, then it will print you the number of sides. So their code ended up looking like this: the class dice blueprint, the initialized variable called sides, called it in the main, and printed it with dot sides, and then you will get 6. They created another function called roll, which will roll the dice. And inside the roll is where they set up the random number generation. So if they initialize a variable called random number, and then you can also do it like this. Instead of creating a variable like int range or whatever, you can do 1 to 6 dot random. So then it would develop a random number from that range, and then you print the random number. And then they set it up the exact same way. So they put the function inside this dice class, and then it prints the random number, and then it'll go back to the main. So it would actually it would originally print what's here, and then it would print what's up there. So currently we're printing the value of the random number in our roll. So, but it doesn't actually do anything else yet. It doesn't return anything yet. So we want roll to return something. So the return expression kind of print, but a little bit differently. So in this scenario, they have the function roll, and then they gave the data type int because that's the return type of the function, the data type, because you're returning a whole number. Then it's the same thing, but then you'll return the variable, which is random number. So right now in the main function, you have your object instance in the dice class. You created a variable called dice roll, which you did the dot roll because it's referencing that function, and then you print it. So then it will tell you your 6-sided dice would roll to 4. So in this scenario, they suggest that not all dice have 6 sides, and so you can also add sides instead, so that it would go to any number of range. And then you can also like hardcode like the specific number of sides you want it to have, like 20, and then it would do that as well. So that's just like an option that they showed you. Your 20-sided dice roll whatever number that it gave you. And so you're able to customize your dice as well. So by creating an integer num sides, because like you want it to like roll a different number every time. And then yeah, basically same thing, just more extensive. So that's that. Sorry, it seems like I'm rushing through it. I know I've had you guys here longer than you probably predicted. But I'm trying to get you through it as fast as I can. So now they created another project in Android Studio called Dice Roller, and you set it up the exact same way. So if you open Android Studio, create a new project, put Dice Roller, and you open it up, and then if you ran it like an emulator, it would look like that, but the Dice Roller is the name of your project. So then it's like the same thing, but creating the layout of your app. Right now, I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna go ahead and open up like the dice, a new dice roller. So I'm gonna create a new project, empty activity, next, and do dice roller, and then finish. And then Android Studio will open up a new one for me. And it should look like how originally the Happy Birthday one looked, exactly the same way with like the two files. And in this feature, we're going to add like the button, like the UI element, which is because you're going to click the button to roll like some number of times. And so if Android Studio is up, oh, it's still loading. So I'm going to wait for it to load. So while it loads, you probably remember we had a palette, right? That's where we had like the text view and the image view, and then we dragged that onto our layout, like where we had our visual of our app. So the same thing, we're going to be dragging a button and they are positioning it below the hello world. And the button also is not constrained, meaning it's not margined properly. And so they are just positioning the button right under the text view. And then you can also adjust it based off of the constraint widget. So let's see if it's up. Yes, it is. So if I go to res, layout, activity main, it brings up our layout editor. And so you can see here, you can see like the button, and I can drag let's zoom in on this a bit. I can drag the button over and place it under. And that's when they're saying, you know, like it's not constrained. So if I like reposition a little bit and then drag it up, it's still kind of like, you know, the constraint is not like perfect, which is why they suggest that, you know, you can like put in 0 so it positions itself. And so if I did it the same way, so now, you know, it's like a lot more straighter. That's the purpose of the constraint layout. And changing a little bit more to the UI editor and the layout editor with the button, they wanted to change the text to roll. And because that's hard-coded text, you can also get a suggestion for fixing it. So for example, I change it to roll. And then you still have an error because it's hard-coded. I'm just going to fix it. So now the error goes away. And so yeah, so then again, same as before, in the design editor, you're able to sort of change like the text size and everything and change it to how you would like it. And so now one feature that they're trying to do is right now it says hello world, right? But we're kind of wanting to change it to a number instead. So you're kind of pretending that it has like the number of the dice that you rolled. So in common attributes, we're going to go to, let me click on the button. And then in common attributes, sorry, so I can see it. If you go to the text here and you click send, type 1, then we can see that the button has changed to 1. And oh wait, 1 second. I think I mixed it up. So they want your hello world, my bad, to say roll. Sorry, I messed up again. They want this to say roll, and then this to say 1. Okay, and that's what your app would end up looking like if you ran it same way. So now they are just suggesting like in your activity is you're providing details for the activities layout and how the user would interact with it. So the activity in the birthday card app was displaying the birthday message, whereas in the dice roller one, it's going to display the text and the button. And so on our main activity file, this is what they mean and what it looks like. And we don't necessarily need to understand what's going on, but we're just sort of like going to implement some of like the Kotlin code to make our app more interactive. So we want to make sure that we can include all of Kotlin. So you would go to File, New Project Settings, Preferences for New Projects. So File, New Project Settings, Preferences for New Projects. Select Auto Import under Other Settings, and make sure that these for Java and Kotlin are selected, and select Apply and click OK. Mine are already selected. And then this is the part where you make the dice more interactive. So here you're going to create a variable called roll button, and then so the button is like in the layout. This is the resource ID, and then we're going to find it by that ID. So in your onCreate method, you should now add like this this line. I'm just going to copy it for you for now. So in onCreate, like within that function. So I'm just going to add another line and put the roll button. And so we need to associate the code with the button so that we can execute it every time the button is tapped. So like every time you click it, it's like it's listening that you want to tap it. And so in that case, we're going to do a roll button dot set on click listener. One second. So it would be like this. So you have your roll button and then you're finding by ID. And your toast is like a text, and then you're going to make the text saying that you rolled the dice, and then your length would be short. So if I were just to just copy this and paste it, I'm just showing you now for like just time purposes, but obviously you can definitely do it on your own. And so the set on click listeners when you tap it, and the toast is making a text that this dice was rolled, and then like the number of times, and then it shows you the text. And then if you ran the app, that's what it would look like. You would have the roll and then the dice roller. So when you roll the dice, it would tell you that the dice was rolled, but it hasn't showed you the number yet. And then we're gonna when you update the text view, you can update the text view when you click the button. So like, because we want it to show like the number of times, right? And so you can do result, you can add a variable called result text view, and then include the number. So instead of saying like dice rolled, it would tell you this instead. So in that scenario, you can remove what you hadn't set on click listener before, and then include this instead. So it now shows you for 6. And now it's like implementing the dice class. So because you want it to be randomized, right? So like with the number of sides, and the number of sides is like whatever number of sides that your dice is, and then you want it to be randomized up until then. And so sorry, I'm going to go through it. And okay, so I'm going to create a class called dice, and then after the last curly brace in the main activity, and then with the roll method. So for now, we'll just copy it. This is the last, and then there's your dice class. You can probably see that there's like a gray underline under num slides. It's because that it could be private, so I do suggest that you make it private, so that it's only accessible within the dice class, and like not other outside classes cannot access it, or else it'll get confusing. And within your set on click listener, we're going to replace it with the roll dice, which was the name, which is like a method name. And so it would call like that function. So if I removed everything from set on click listener and I just did roll dice, it would probably give an error. And that's because there's no like reference to it, and we want to create a function. So I can right click and create a function. So in your roll dice, now you'll be able to implement a dice object instance, and within this we can display it in the text view. So we're going to delete the to-do because you don't need that. And then we're going to use the roll method to save the result into dice roll. Rolling is what's going to allow the dice to change. And then the variable dice roll is a number, but text view is a string. So you can use toString to convert it to a string. And then your dice roll method. So you have your dice with the dice class, and it's 6. And then you roll the dice, and then we have the result of the text view, which is what like the number would be. And then we're going to convert it because it's a string. We want, but because it's a number, we want to convert it to a string so that it would look like this. So every time you clicked on it, the number would change. So if I were to just copy this and paste it here, so for now, so like I can just show you if I were like using it in the layout editor. and it would be like that if you ran your emulator. So if we add some conditional behavior, I'm almost done, bear with me. This is a place where they sort of introduce the if statements, if else. I'm gonna like go through this part pretty fast because it's pretty obvious. You have your main function and you have a value, and they gave it the variable name num and equal to 5. In an if statement, you have a condition. If it satisfies the condition, you will like have like a print statement or some kind of like mathematical equation that it would solve. So 5 is greater than 4, so it prints the variable is greater than 4. So this is the syntax for it. So if the condition is true, execute the code. And you could also have like, in this scenario, they like, because they didn't have an alternate statement, if the value is 3, that's greater than 4, there's no option for them to do anything if the value was, not like greater than 4. So it just wouldn't print anything. That's why you have else, if else statements, if you probably heard. So if the number is greater than 4, it would print this. Else, it would print that it's less than 4. So because the number is 3, the value is less than 4. Sometimes you can have lots of if else statements, and that's when you use the else if combination. So if you had a number that is equal to 4, if the number is greater than 4, then you print that. If it's else if it's equal to 4, you print that. Else, then you print it's less than 4. So in that scenario, because you can have 3 conditions, so if you have more conditions, then that's an else if is easier to use. But if you start with an if, number of conditions will be else if, and then you end it with an else. So they're just showing you like an example, like a lucky dice roll. So you have in your main function, well, in your dice class, we have the number of sides, and then which rolls a random number. And then you have 6 sides, you get the random number, and you say your 6-sided dice rolled this. And so your lucky number they have is 4. And then let's say that whatever you roll, if the result is your lucky number, it's like you win. And else, that means that you didn't. So they're just showing you an example, like if you had a lucky number and the dice was rolled, depending on what the number was, that statement will be printed. This is the new concept. At least like I've like in school, I've gone through courses with Java, C, and C++ so far. A when statement is like a little bit different. And this is kind of like, it's a bit easier to be honest, because right now they said they have a variable called roll result, and it's kind of like when it's this, then you would like if the result is your lucky number, then you print the message. So if this result is the number that you're looking for, then you would execute that, because this would be the syntax for it. So when roll result equals your lucky number, you print you win, which is how they've executed it. And that's the same thing, but you can also change it to like the possible real numbers rather than just doing lucky number. You can do like, if it's your lucky number, print you won. But if it's 1, you rolled this. If it's 2, you rolled this. So that's the syntax for it. When, like, if this happens and you want like if this happened and it's this, then execute this. That's the code for it. So that was the solution for that. All right, bear with me. I'm on the last one. I'll be done very soon. So now this is kind of where you would put like the images for the dice app. So originally, it's like you click the number, you click roll, and then you can see the number. And so in your constraint layout, they have like the text view, And then, but they want you to delete it because the text view is like the number, right? We don't need the number anymore. We want the number to be displayed on the dice. And so, so if you dragged an image into your, an image view onto your palette, then it would display on there. And then it would pull up to pick a resource, which is the avatar. So for now, if you pick the avatar, that's the image that would display in the middle of your screen. You can position it like I showed you in the constraint layout. So for example, like if I just, like if I had an image view and I dragged it over like this, and then I just, I said, just choose that, then I can position it with the constraint widget. And then that's what they do to position the role and the image like together. And you can do that as well. Like if I wanted, for now I'm just going to keep it like that, but you can position it like add 0. And you can also see like the number from like the distance between the top to the top of the screen. So this is where you would add your dice image. It's the same way how we added the birthday card image, where you go to the URL and download the zip file. And then it's probably in your downloads folder. Make sure you like unzip it, and then you can import the drawables from the resource manager. To get to the resource manager, it's view, tool windows, resource manager. So if I was here and I went to resource manager and I import drawables, I already had it downloaded, so I can pick dice 1. Well, I should pick all of them. So let me try that again. Drawables. So I'm going to pick all of them. And next, I'm picking all of them because it has like an image for every single like dice number. And like, if you were rolling 6, then you want to have all of them. And then we imported. And now you want to be able to use the dice image, right? So in your design editor, we're going to select the image view, and then in your declared attribute section, go to the src compat attribute, because right now it's the avatar, but you want it to change to the dice 1. So if you have image view selected, you see right here. So if I clicked on the avatar, I click dice 1, continue, and now it has brought the dice, which is very big, and we will adjust it. So to make it smaller, we can set a fixed width of 160 dp and a 200 dp, and like the layout width and layout height of the constraints widget. So it was 160 and then 200. So 160 and then 200 dp. So now it's much smaller, and you can position it. And now this, again, it's just the margins to sort of like picturize the button in the center of the screen, which I've showed you. And so now the main activity needs to be changed because we changed the picture, right, to the dice images. So if I went to main activity, the text view wouldn't necessarily work anymore. And so we want to, whatever refers to the text view, you want to get rid of it. So your roll dice method would now look like this, because we want the dice image to show now. And your whatever you have for text view would now be changed. So I'm just gonna copy and then paste that there. And so now it has updated. So if you were running your app, you run it, this is what you would see. Once you tap the button, a dice image displaying 2 will appear. So now you can see 2. But like we wanted to display the message of the number that's being rolled, right? And so obviously if like user roles 1, display the first image, the second image. So this is where you would be implementing your if-else statements. And depending on that, it would set the image resource to that specific image. And then you can also use a when statement. So if it was 1, you execute 1. If it was 2, you execute 2. This part's totally up to you. So in like, we have like the roll dice method, right? So they want us to replace it with the when. And so in that case, if I have this, I would just, I'm going to copy it for now. Oh. And you'd be replacing this, this with like your if when statement so that it would execute accordingly. So if you run the app and you click roll, then you'll be able to see the number that was like popping up on the emulator. And so this is sort of a way to sort of avoid like, you know, repeating like the same like images. So they sort of just you, instead of like having to repeat set image resource, they've decided to they stored the resource ID, so now you can do dice image dot set image resource only once in your code. So if you replace it, now originally you had it like this when dice roll, but now with the drawable resource, they created like a variable dice image dot set image resource drawable resource. So if you set that equal to like the when statement, then it would execute it, which is totally up to you. And that is pretty much it. Yep, I've got to the end. Sorry I took very long. If you have any questions, yeah, when is kind of like a switch statement, because like in a switch statement you would have cases, and then depending on what you're passing, like case 1, you know, whichever, case 2, whichever. So that's right. When is like a switch statement. So sorry I had to rush. Definitely, if you have any questions, you can reach out. We can also give you guys the link to this if you ever wanted to do anything on your own time. And join us for like the workshop next week, because we'll be sort of going into this more deeply. I gave you like a very basic introduction today. You guys probably already knew what I was talking about. But I also wanted to assume that there's people here that also didn't know anything about like programming at all. So this was like an intro for them. Also, don't forget to like watch the solution challenge kickoff and join our Slack. Indu, do you want to add anything about that?
Yeah, about the Android study jams. So basically, Madhu just covered the first unit with 2 more. Madhu, can you actually drop the course in the chat so that they can finish the quiz associated with the unit?
You mean what I just did?
No, it's like the Android website, the one that I sent you. But basically, once you finish all the badges, at the end of the 3 units, you'll be able to get a certificate of your skills, basically. So make sure to do that. Next week, like Madhu said, we will be having another one where we'll actually be developing a Uber Eats app, which would be pretty cool. And another event that we have tomorrow is the grad school tips for success. And if you're interested in trying to level up your computer science career, please make sure to attend that. And as for the solution challenge, if you are interested, make sure to watch the video on our YouTube channel of our kickoff that we had last week. And if you are interested, please make sure to finish the next steps that you can find in that video, as well as message me through Slack so I can get you started. And like Madhu said, please join Slack, because like that's our primary communication if you haven't already. And another important thing is Bull Sync if you want to receive the weekly newsletter. Other than that, thank you all for attending. I'm going to drop the Slack link in the chat before you go. Does anyone have any questions?
Just a second, guys. I will drop like the link to the whole Kotlin, like all of the units and everything in just a second. I had like a shorter link to it, so I'm trying to get the other link right now.
And the Android development skills, like they're very helpful if you are interested in the Solution Challenge, if you're interested in developing a mobile app. So take advantage of it.
Give me just a second. I'm about to get you the link.